So in the last piece of work, which was the photographs called Fulford in Fog, we were looking at moments of time in a continuum. Soon after doing that piece, I came across a piece of music written by Eric Satie in the 1800s, which is a short piece of music for piano, 52 beats long, not very long at all. It's very difficult to remember the piece of music, but its name's called Vexations. And in the margin on the score, he wrote, "To be repeated 840 times." Now, we don't know if the piece was played during that time, but there's records of it being played from the 1960s from John Cage, who actually resurrected it and played it at the Pocket Theatre in New York with other people. There's lots of records of what it feels to make this piece of work, and someone records doing it, and I think he gave up sort of 3/4 of the way through, saying that people shouldn't attempt this without, having serious mental tests first to make sure that you've got the stamina, the mental stamina to see through that kind of repetition. And it's a very difficult thing to do. So another part of repetition in process might be something to do with endurance. So what I did as an artist, as a sculptor, to try and experience what that might be in my own way, was just to simply chalk the numbers and rub them out in sequence on a chalkboard. Now this takes about 2.5 hours. The first time I did it, I set the camera on automatic focus, and every time my arm came in and out, the camera would move in and out, and it just made you feel sick. So after 2.5 hours of the task, we had to abort it, and I started again the next morning. And the chalkboard, about halfway through, had got so French polished due to the rubbing out of the chalk that it wouldn't actually take the numbers anymore. So then we had to remake the board, do the whole piece of work again, and this is the result. So what you're seeing here is a screen with the live footage of me chalking on the chalkboard next to the actual chalkboard that was used. When we get to the end, which isn't far off now, we're on 754, when we get to 840, you'll see that the image matches absolutely. And I say absolutely because this particular piece has actually sort of gone through the ravages of time insofar it's been exhibited an awful lot, and people themselves, I think, have been up and tried to rub the numbers out, so there's finger marks there. So that's also changed. The work has sort of lived beyond what we might call the finish of this piece of work.
You were saying that Satie, when he originally composed this piece of music, it was to experience the how long it takes and how difficult it is to go through that 840 times. How difficult was it for you?
Well, I think actually that Satie, there's discussion about the fact that Satie did it in a sort of belligerent mood in order to rile people. It was something he liked to do, apparently. It was part of his makeup. He enjoyed sort of goading the public in that kind of way, or even maybe the people who performed his work. I think for me, I became interested in the idea of endurance in this from accounts that people had made of experiencing performing the piece of music. And there's some lovely accounts by Gavin Bryars, who performed this piece many years ago at Leicester University, I understand. And he talks about the experience of doing it. Him and his mate broke into the college early morning, and they started very early in the morning so that they could work right through to the end of the day. And because there was only 2 of them, they couldn't communicate because the piece was in continuum. So they used to shuffle off the piano stool, and one would shuffle on, and they started writing notes in the process of the work, so that they could actually be certain that they were doing exactly the right count. And these notes have become a sort of perfect record of research in process, to describe what it actually felt like to be involved in this sort of epic event. And it was that drew me into the idea of this as an experience, something to be felt. And I think recently someone has written about this piece of work and said, but she never really says what she felt.
And what did you feel?
Well, I wonder if it's immaterial what I felt. I think now what I'm doing is passing it on to the viewer, because there has been, surprisingly enough, people who have actually stayed and looked at this film all the way through from start to finish, waiting for that 280 to appear, and also for the whole thing to start again.
And have you had feedback? What did they say?
Well, I think that was probably for them to hold on to, just as much as the experience of chalking this was there for me. I think when you do watch the film, there are telltale signs, there are sort of leakages of experience that come through the video. So there are moments when you can see that I've forgotten what number I'm going to chalk back. There's a moment where I think I double up 10 of them, I repeat them, and there's an area that I think I miss a few out. So there's the hand, which is the only part of the person who's making it that you can see, starts to tell a story in its own right about perhaps what the experience is.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.